Welcome to G Fun Facts Online. Today we're tackling a question that cuts right to the heart of our modern economy. CEO pay. Is it a finely tuned economic engine driving companies to new heights? Or is it a runaway train of greed, widening the gap between the super rich and everyone else? We hear the headlines, CEOs making hundreds of times more than their average employee. And it's easy to have a strong gut reaction. But what's really going on? Let's dissect the billion-dollar question. Is massive CEO pay a necessary evil, or just plain evil? To get to the bottom of this, we first need to understand what's actually inside one of these mega compensation packages. It's far more complicated than just a big salary. While the base salary for a top CEO often exceeds $1 million, that's usually just the tip of the iceberg. It's the fixed amount they get for showing up and doing the job, but it's not where the real money is. The bulk of a CEO's earnings comes from a complex web of incentives, theoretically designed to make them think like shareholders. First, you have short-term incentives, or STIs. These are annual bonuses for hitting specific targets, like growing revenue or increasing profit margins for the year. Think of it as a reward for a good report card. Some companies even have a stretch component, offering a bigger bonus for truly exceptional results. But the real game changer is long-term incentives, or LTIs. This is where the astronomical figures come from. In 2021, LTIs made up a staggering 72% of total CEO pay. These are designed to reward performance over several years, usually 3 to 5. They are almost always stock-based. This can include stock options, which give the CEO the right to buy company stock at a set price in the future. If the stock price soars, they can buy low and sell high for a massive profit. There's also restricted stock, which are shares they're given but can't sell for a certain period, and performance-vested stock, which they only get if the company hits long-term goals. On top of all that, you have the perks: personal use of the company jet, high-end security services, club memberships, and lavish retirement plans. And finally, the infamous golden parachute, a huge severance package they receive if they're let go, often even if they underperformed. This whole complex package is put together by the Board of Directors Compensation Committee, who have the difficult job of trying to justify it to shareholders. So how did we get here? How did we go from a reasonable gap to a chasm? The history is startling. Back in the 1950s, the average CEO in the US made about 20 times what their average worker did. By 1965, that ratio was basically the same, at 21:1. The gap was there, but it was manageable. Then, things started to change. By 1978, the ratio had crept up to 31:1. But the real explosion happened after that. Between 1978 and 2023, CEO pay at major U.S. companies shot up by an unbelievable 1.085%. And the typical worker? Their pay, adjusted for inflation, rose by just 24% in that same period. The result? By 2024, the average CEO at a top 350 U.S. firm was paid about 281 times more than their typical employee. Another analysis put the ratio for S&P 500 companies at 285:1. What caused this meteoric rise? Ironically, it was a well-intentioned policy change in the 1990s. In an effort to curb what they saw as excessive salaries, U.S. lawmakers capped the tax deductibility of executive pay at $1 million. But there was a loophole. This cap didn't apply to performance-based pay. The unintended consequence was massive. Companies didn't lower pay, they just shifted it. They started piling on stock options and other long-term incentives that weren't subject to the cap. This single move inadvertently opened the floodgates to the era of the $100 million CEO. So how do companies and economists justify these numbers? This is the economic engine argument. Proponents say this isn't about greed. It's about smart economics in a hyper-competitive world. The central pillar of this argument is, quote, pay for performance. The theory is simple. If a huge chunk of a CEO's pay is tied to the company's stock price, their interests will be perfectly aligned with the shareholders. When the company does well and the stock goes up, everyone wins, including the CEO. They're incentivized to make bold decisions that create long-term value. And the role of a CEO is undeniably critical. They set the vision, manage immense resources, and are ultimately responsible for the livelihoods of thousands of employees. Some studies estimate a CEO's influence can account for anywhere from 15% to as high as 45% of a company's overall performance. If a single person can swing a company's fortunes by billions of dollars, supporters ask, shouldn't their compensation reflect that potential value? This leads to the second part of the argument, the superstar effect. First described by economist Sherwin Rosen, this theory suggests that in certain fields, a tiny number of elite individuals can command a massive share of the income. Think of superstar athletes or blockbuster movie stars. The argument is that the best CEOs are just as rare and valuable. In this view, corporations are locked in a fierce war for talent. To attract and keep these superstar executives, you have to pay superstar prices. The cost of a multi-million-dollar pay package, they argue, is a small price to pay for a leader who can add billions to a company's value. When a highly regarded CEO is hired, the company's stock often jumps immediately, suggesting the market itself believes that person is worth the price tag. But for every argument that CEO pay is a fine-tuned engine, there's another that it's a runaway train, causing immense damage. This brings us to the cascade of criticism, the biggest bombshell for the